Sophie, thank you for joining me.
I'm really excited about this.
Me too. Like you said earlier, you normally do the interviewing.
Yeah,
My
I'm usually in your seat.
Yeah.
So no one really interviews me. I'm usually interviewing them. I'm the gossip queen.
Pleasure to be the person doing that today.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Tell me, who is Sophie Kasaei?
Sophie Kasaei. There's two different Sophie Kasaeis. There is the Geordie Shore Sophie Kasaei that a lot of people have seen for 15 years. But there's also the Sophie Kasaei that not many people see. So there is two sides to me, and both great, but both quite different.
Is that deliberate? Is that to keep your privacy and to keep the private Sophie that only a select group of people see?
Well, I don't think I've been given a chance really to show who I am. Things like this are brilliant because I can talk and express in the way that I wouldn't be able to on reality TV shows, because these shows are not controlled, but there is subjects. And on them subjects, you have to just speak about that subject. So you can't really show who you are as a person really when you're following sort of story scripts and stuff.
Almost like you're directed and told what to do.
Exactly.
But one thing that joins the two of you together is authenticity.
Yeah.
So although you're being told, because I've watched and I've seen and I've listened to all sorts of things building up to today. Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
It's great.
But you're yourself. So although you are splitting into two and there's things you have to do, it feels like you still wouldn't do anything you wouldn't believe in or wouldn't want to do.
Yeah, of course. I think now that I'm older, there isn't things that I wouldn't want to do things, Like I think you have more of a understanding.
Perspective, right?
Yeah,
Maturity.
in this industry, yeah. So like say if we're filming now, we'll be like, I'm not happy with that. I don't really want to say that. I don't want to do that. And they'll really understand the producers and stuff now. So they'll have a lot of respect. Okay, that's fine. We understand. But obviously back in the day, you're talking 15 years ago when TV was a lot different, but it was really a lot more fun. We could just do and say whatever we wanted, and producers were telling you, think, oh my God, I've got to do it, so I'll stay on the show. But you know what?
You were proving yourself back then as well, right? So there's probably an element of a young Sophie that was like dreaming of stardom. You're aspirational, and whereas with that perspective, maturity, and also you've learned so much. You were an early pioneer. Like you say, TV's changed a lot, but you were Geordie Shore. You were reality TV. I call myself a veteran
in TV. I'm a TV veteran.
And yet still so young.
15 years I started. I'm 35 now, and I was like 20. It's mad to think of a 20-year-old starting in that kind of industry with no past experience. Didn't have any clue really. The only shows that were around back then was Towie, Made in Chelsea and Big Brother. They were the main reality TV shows. So it's not like now there's like floodloads. Most TV now is reality TV. So we were always compared to them other shows. So for us, we were so different, so new to it, didn't have a clue what was going to happen. And you know what? Weirdly, not many of us started that show wanting to be famous, because we didn't understand it like the people do now. Reality TV now is people want to get famous, rich, super quick, public profile. But for us, we had no clue what fame actually meant or what being in the public eye actually meant. We were just kids from these small little towns being given an opportunity, and we had no clue what was about to come.
Interesting you mentioned the platform, because it has allowed you to build a platform.
100%.
And I guess ultimately that makes you a role model. You are. I mean, I was going to come to that, but by being a role model and by having proven that going on reality TV can do that, that's why so many people want to. I think some ridiculous stat like 70% of Gen Z now aspire to be an influencer. Although that's not necessarily how you describe yourself.
Yeah.
You are able to influence now because you built a platform.
Yeah, look, I totally agree with you. Of course, there is part of us that has to be a role model as we are getting older as well. If you look at Geordie Shore, what can a role model be to a girl who was going out partying and having fun? Yes, of course, you can take bits of that, and say there was a bit of a role model in ways, where I talk about surgery, or be honest, and I'll be honest about the way I was feeling mentally and stuff like that. But now being a role model means so many different things to me, especially with the age that I'm at. A lot of women are 30s, 40s. And for me, being a role model would mean, I want to help people who've got their kids now and their younger generation. And also the women of my age, I speak a lot about fertility and endometriosis and women's problems and mentally how we feel as women. So I've really used that I've used my platform to the advantage of helping other women. And yeah, maybe I am a bit of a role model, not my past, but as I am getting older, I'm learning more.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, your past it's all part of who you are, right? And so I think, I know, very humble in saying that, but then is there not an element of the fact that you've been so visible for so long? And so people have been able to get to know you. And actually, if you're reflecting with perspective and maturity now, that you don't have 15 years ago, to then say, I probably wouldn't do that again. I probably wouldn't advise that. That's being a role model.
Yeah, no, of course, it's learning from, I wouldn't want to say mistakes.
I call it lived experience, but you're going slightly negative with it, as in like, things that I wouldn't do again. But it's lived experience.
Yeah, it's lived experiences, 100%. And then I've learned that, when I do have a family, the life lessons I can learn my family will be incredible, because the life that I've lived is so rare. It is, very different to how a lot of younger people have been growing up. So I think I can probably give the best advice.
Yes.
And that is what I love to do now. I like to help other people and speak to other people and learn.
I can feel that. And that's a key why I wanted to talk to you.
Because quite motherly.
And you want to give that advice because it's going to benefit others. Because you were a pioneer. Use that veteran word again, right? Yeah. You've come through a time where it was the Wild West, if you like. God, no one, in fact, I'd love to ask you that actually, almost like the lack of safeguarding, the lack of advice, the fact that you were able to build a platform, but you were doing it without necessarily knowing what that really meant. And you've got a huge following, right? You were talking about socials off camera. But that gives you an opportunity to monetize that and to also engage people from a role model point of view. So actually what you say and what you do now has a lot more consequence and meaning and purpose than it did 15 years ago.
Yeah, but you've got to remember, like back then, we had it was like we lost the value of money a bit as well. And we didn't really know what we were doing. Like we didn't ever have any financial support or anything. So
it was just no advice really.
It was just spend. And it got to a point, I've spoke about this before, like where I ended up with no money. So yeah, monetizing it all and doing all that kind of thing. Yeah, it's great, but we had no clue. We were just kids and being thrown into this world, and we had no clue what we're doing. We didn't have social media for the first 4 years until that started coming around. Instagram only came around, 10 years ago now? So we were 5 years into that before that happened.
And then there's no advice for that, right? So you would have been, fair play, you built a following, but you were again, pioneering that in the sort of limelight. It doesn't seem to have, again, you articulated it beautifully off camera, it hasn't actually damaged you in any way, but and caused you a sort of a massive downward spiral. But there must have been times where you've battled it, and maybe that's part of the split that we don't see. And I wanted to touch that without
no problem.
Just how you've got through times where you're like, I wish I hadn't done that, or now I know this, because you learnt it actually in real time.
Yeah.
And almost giving that advice to people looking in now that want to be you.
I think I'm really good at hiding it, I'll be honest. I think I'm really good at hiding going through dark times. It's like a resilience, it's like a mask, because in the hard times that, I've went through, I have to be on camera, I have to be bubbly self. I'm getting paid for being me. So if I didn't show up to work and, I was just sitting there down or like really talking about how I felt, that wasn't part of the work at the time. So for me, I've got a really good defense mechanism of going through bad times, but putting on this brave face, which in a way isn't good, because
bottling up your emotion.
Exactly. I'm bottling up and then one day I'll just burst. So I have been through so many like traumatic experiences and up and downness, and this journey I've been on has been absolutely tough. But what I rely on is speaking to the other cast members about how I'm feeling, relating to them. We can all bond on it all, and even speaking to like friends and family who might not relate to what I'm going through, but just talking has helped me so much.
Well, it's ultimately therapy, isn't it? Doesn't mean you've got to go to a therapist, but you were bottling stuff up as a young version of you. Now you're prepared to talk.
Yeah.
And talking to the people that will give you, dare I say, the information or the validation, an ear. That's what we need, isn't it? We need someone to talk to.
Yeah, of course, hit the nail on the head.
You must have seen in that sort of 15-year period other people not deal with their mental health particularly well at all.
Oh God,
things haven't gone well. Have you been there to help some of those people? It's tricky because you're in your lane and you're trying to look after yourself. But do you feel that as much as you're now talking to people about, and that helps you, can you see where certain people really went into it again, a downward spiral, and are struggling to get out of that now?
Well, listen, I mean, it's very out in the open what's happened to other people who are in this TV world, and how hard it can be that people are just living with these demons. And some people have obviously brought themselves to suicide, and people have attempted it. The list goes on. It is really, really sad, and this is why the younger generation who want to get the fame and they want to get the social media and be an influencer, it is not what it seems. Yes, there's some amazing bits, but I have seen people like really rock bottom. I've got friends in TV who've reached out and said, just don't want to be here. And look, I've had times like that. It sort of comes with it. But what's really hard is, sometimes the public then go, well, you signed up for that. You signed up for that. This is what you should get. You knew what you're in for. And we're all human. Yeah, and we are all like normal people, as much as it might not look. And sometimes people in reality TV or in the public eye, they are hitting rock bottom. Seeing signs of that early on, which I can see, I'll always reach out to them, always. But again, some people suffer in silence, and that is really sad.
If they're not saying anything, how are you going to know?
Exactly.
Another key thing is, because it's reality TV, a lot of people will feel like they know you, because they watch you all the time.
I get that all the time.
I imagine you do. Go to Tesco's, go to the post office, and it's like, it's Sophie. And I'm like, well, I don't know you.
Yeah.
How do you manage that? And I think that's a bigger picture conversation of managing fame and a big social following, where a lot of people probably want to message you because it's Sophie, but actually, you know what? Back to that two of you. That's the Sophie I put out, but I kind of need my space to not be approached.
I'll be honest with you. When I first started getting like more well known, something like I didn't accept it. It was maybe I had a bit of imposter syndrome, but I was really like, I wasn't rude to people, but I remember like being out in public with the other Geordie Shore girls and people being like, so-and-so's my favourite, or so-and-so's my favourite, and I was never the favourite. So that really stuck with us. So when people wanted to get photos, I used to be like, not rude, but I used to have this like back up and be like, well, do you not want a photo with her? She's more popular. And they were like, no, we want it with you. And I was like, but why? And I did this quite a lot. Or like when I got recognised, people would like say my name and I'd hide because I didn't want them to get a photo with us, because I didn't feel like I was worthy enough of like being known or being like liked. Really, really weird, when I think about it back then. This went on for quite a while, and we're still talking about it now, and they're like, God, I can remember like when you used to run away from like people taking photos of you. And
what got you comfortable with that? Because I feel like you're super comfortable in your own skin now. There is that maturity and perspective, and you've sort of got your identity, if you like, and you're in your lane. But what got you to a point where you lost that imposter syndrome, if you like?
I feel like it took us a while, and it was probably until a moment where I actually felt like accepted for being me. And I think
that needed to come from you, right?
That needed to come from me and accepting like who I was. So it was probably took about 6 years,
It's a long time.
A long time to compare myself constantly. Whoever's more famous or whoever's more popular at the time. And I think that really stuck with us, and it probably still does now. I'm constantly getting compared to the other girls. They've had babies, they're getting married. Oh my God, she's not, poor Sophie. And it's like a girl band sort of mentality that I've got.
Do you think the resilience that you built from that made you a better person though? Do you know what I mean? Like, so you masked, you hid, and so on, to then build that perspective and actually kind of, this is me and I'm here because I'm 100%. Me, and then actually you're stronger for it.
Yeah, 100%. It wasn't until like, Geordie Shore had probably like changed a bit and more people came in and there was other cast members, and then I felt like I really found my own a bit, and I wasn't compared to just maybe like 3 girls. I was now in a bigger group with more people, so that made us feel a bit better about it. But again, I was mentioning this before, I think I started doing a little bit in the healing, and when I did that, it was when I really found myself. Just before COVID, I was about 29, 30, and something changed within us. And when I look back, it was like I was a cocoon turned into a butterfly.
I love that.
Yeah, that's how I felt. Like that cocoon was just brewing, and then I just had my wings when I turned 30 and my life changed and I felt like I just knew myself and I was like, I am Sophie Kasaei and I've been doing this for a long time and I know like what I stood for and I was, you know, talking about, you know, endometriosis and all the other things, and I think that's probably when it really clicked.
I love that. And I want to know how much of that was deliberate and how much that came as circumstance, because what you're talking about there is making a conscious effort to look after yourself.
Yeah.
So we talked earlier that I go to the gym in the morning. It's important to me, but it's also a nice way for me to start the day.
100%.
It gets my mind focused. So going through that difficult period to then almost having therapy with yourself, if you like, and being mindful.
I actually did get therapy.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that. And so, but you consciously went looking for it. You kind of almost, I guess, acknowledged you needed help, and then you helped yourself. So what works for you now? Like, because you look like you keep fit and you've got a proper sparkle in your eye.
Yeah.
So there's a mental and a physical fitness glow from you. But what do you do?
For me, it was like, I was saying this before, it was like I had this new religion, right? And look, I come from a Muslim background, but I found this religion within, I sound so woo-woo, but it was like within like the universe thing. I started doing crystals, I started doing meditation, then I started doing like yoga on the TV. And then, you know, in COVID, going for walks, that really started us out. So them things started to be a bit of my therapy. And that really helped us. But I had a very negative mindset, I think, in my 20s. And I knew I had to change that because the negative mind can take us to some bloody dark places. And that is scary. And I knew I had to change my mindset because that was not getting me anywhere. You know, the constant words, they're doing better than me, she's doing better, oh my God, look at her, like, I'm not worthy. And when I changed that, I kid you not, my whole life changed. And I think that was like me going to the gym. It was like waking up and doing meditation, going for a walk, doing things that make us happy, you know, getting out, all them kind of things, and mentally, you know, speaking to myself. And I read books upon books.
Controlling the voices in your head.
100%.
This is so powerful. I'm a dad of two daughters, 13 and 15.
Bless you, yeah.
So you are a role model to young girls growing up. And there is, I mean, you mentioned social media and the pressure there. And a lot of what you just said then is a big part of that sort of negative doom scrolling algorithm on social media. And so, you know, to actually know that you can consciously focus on positives and do things physically and mentally to stop that kind of, you know, going into a really negative place, if you like, which you've been in, to know you pull yourself out. What advice would you give to young aspirational girls growing up that could be lacking in confidence, could be afraid to put themselves out there?
Yeah,
you know,
I get it.
my 15-year-old doesn't want to post on social media because of the fear of judgment and kind of bullying that goes to school. But she's beautiful. She would probably love to be doing more and be visible.
It's so sad.
It is sad.
It is sad. I've got a cousin actually who was posting the other day and they keep putting like emojis over a beautiful, she's got a beauty spot.
Yeah, there's this guy, oh, I see,
that.
I'll cover it, but there's that, or they'll just do a clip of the hair, and you want to put your face, but they won't do it.
Honestly, it really breaks my heart. And look, one day I know I'm going to have children of my own, and I'm probably going to have a little girl, and, you know, I do question all these things because, look, for me, I didn't have any training. I was thrown into the deep end with social media. I didn't know what to post, what not to post, what to say, what not to do. And you do have to think long and hard about what you post. You don't want to upset certain people. You say the wrong thing, cancel culture will cancel you. And you've got to remember you've got an audience. So everything I do now and say, I've got to be really mindful. And I always think if I had a daughter, would I want her to see this? This is the way I'm thinking now. So that has helped a lot. You know, now I'll go out clubbing, or, you know, I'll go at the club and stuff, and I'll think, do I really want to show being hungover the next day? Like, I'm really conscious about what I'm posting now, or should I really show that extra tequila? Like, does it really matter? You know, but 20-year-old me would show me partying all night long, being sick and thrown into buckets and doing whatever, weeing on the streets or whatever. Like, that was us. But yeah, so I think now my mentality is, would I want my daughter to see this? And look, I've made mistakes. I've posted the wrong thing. You know, I've posted sexy photos and stuff like that. Yeah, I've done all that. Look, and I've did all that. But now, you know.
But you had no one advising you. There's probably people encouraging you to do that.
Yeah,
and also,
I think
that, yes, and I think there was a cycle that embraced the worst of humanity, if you like, with social media, because it was so hidden away. It was so chiseled. The TV programs were very staged and so on. And then suddenly you could do anything. And you did. So, and I guess, I don't know where the judgment sits with that, but what's really cool is you've got a maturity to be like, I don't want to do that anymore. Or if I'm doing whatever I want to do that I don't want to show on TV and socials, then I won't.
You've got to learn to be able to say no. You know, in our world.
That's great advice.
Yeah, I think like in our world, you're getting thrown so many things at you. You know, you can do this, 500 quid. Or, you know, the other week I got, you know, someone was offering us to post a sunbed. And I was thinking, well, you know, that would be £500 in my bank. And then I was like, well, no, I've just found a new mole on my back that could be skin cancer. Like, why am I doing that? So this is only recently. So things are changing mentally. You know, 10 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, I'll take the 500 quid and I'll post like whatever. But I'm learning to say no because of the obviously image that I want to, you know, show to other girls and, you know.
Responsibility,
exactly.
You've been on one hell of a journey.
Oh, God, yeah.
Facing forwards, you mentioned family and you know, that's all kind of in the mix, if you like. But as a career, as things you'd still like to achieve, is there any kind of North Star that Sophie would like to do?
TV's a hard one, you know. I think I say this to my partner, like I don't want to be famous. I just want to be successful, and I just want like my family to look at us one day and just be proud. And that's what I strive for now. Like, look, I've had the fame, I've had the money. Did it make me happy? No. I want to be grateful as well. I'm not just sitting here saying everything's negative, because it is absolutely not. I've had an amazing career. I've been able to see things and do things and help my family in ways they could never imagine. So there has got a good side to that, but I know a lot of younger generation now, they want to be famous. They want to be the TikToker.
Almost at any cost.
Yeah. And, you know, you're seeing certain things now of women exposing all the bodies and, you know, doing all these sexual activities.
Which goes back to the role model going in the wrong direction, right?
Exactly. And it's scary and it's sad. But one thing I'll say is money doesn't buy happiness, and fame definitely doesn't buy happiness. What does is just wholesome things and having enough to pay your bills and get through life and, you know, go out for the weekend with your friends and your family. And it's honestly not all that. And I think the generation need to really love the self. Everyone's different in their own way. These girls are all different in their own way. Show that. Show how you're different. You know, if you read a book, don't think you're uncool. Or, you know, if you play with dolls, don't think that's uncool. Like, nothing's uncool. You're just different. And that is how you make...
And embrace it.
Embrace it.
Oh, I love that. I always ask everyone on Extraordinary Life Stories what their definition of success is, and you've just summed it up beautifully.
Yeah,
which,
success isn't fame or money for me. It is just being loved by my friends and family and making them proud and just being comfortable in my own skin, really.
Yeah.
And in life.
I love that. You mentioned TV. So I've had the pleasure to speak to a number of people that have got a TV career, if you like. Is there something as an undertow that I'm picking up on where reality TV stars that have done really well, been really successful, huge views, which would be fine if it was a documentary?
Yeah.
I think you know where I'm going with this, or you know, sport or whatever. But there's this sort of almost insecurity where that then leads to them being famous, having a big following, but it pigeons them into an influencer, so which is the number one desire for Gen Z to want to be.
Crazy, yeah.
And this could include yourself, whether it's now or at times. It's almost like they're uncomfortable with being that, you know, and they don't necessarily feel like they are a TV star. But that's how we've been consuming our content. It's watching you on TV, and so which you blow up, you become well known and popular, but they don't feel because it was new.
Yeah, I think the word influencer, there's quite a negative vibe around it.
I agree.
It's like you'll say influencer and instantly the brain will go, oh.
Where do you sit with it?
I'm not an influencer. I was brought into it.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
There's so many other things you could...
But I've got influence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I guess my point being that Kylie Minogue back in the day kills it as a singer, and then she can be the face of a perfume and so on.
She's now an influencer. It is crazy, and I get it. There's different things that go with influencer. I think, like, you know, you'll people take the mickey and they'll be like, oh, influencer in the wild, or she's just an influencer, or I'm dating an influencer. And it's just such a negative thing on it. But there's a lot that goes behind influencers. And I've, certainly worked with brands before, and I've sent a photo off thinking I look amazing, thinking that's a great photo, and they come back, nah, not good enough. We need that really done again. You don't really look that good on that. Can we change the position? Can we take the outfit again? And that'll take hours I've just recorded, so I've got to do that again.
It's misunderstood how much work goes on behind the scenes and the graft and the content creation, if you like.
Yeah, and like you said, we used to sit and watch like EastEnders and Coronation Street. Some people watch that still, but we're watching influencers now. So it's like the new soap. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
Seeing us all on TikTok and stuff. But I do think there is a difference now. I think, the general public and influencers were put in different categories. They're getting looked down at, and I'll vouch for influencers and people in the public eye. Like, they are just as normal as everyone else, and I think people are putting them down too much, and they're just trying to earn a living like everyone else. Whether or not people work at the supermarket or whether or not people work, on social media, that's up to them. And
is there jealousy involved? Because often jealousy comes into a lot of things, but it could be measured. So if someone is jealous of Leonardo DiCaprio, but he went to stage school and built an acting career that somehow it's respected, and I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Whereas reality TV, well, I could have done that, but could you?
Yeah.
Could you come push to shove? Would you have actually gone on camera? Would you have been yourself? Would you have become popular? And that's just one example where then someone's been...
It's a confidence thing, isn't it?
I agree, and I think it takes... I think it takes guts. I think it takes drive to put yourself, because most of these people have had to get through screening to be chosen. There's a talent element to it. And then you've got to last, you've got to have longevity, which I think is a key thing for you, right? You described yourself as a veteran when we first started talking. Still here, still thriving, still flourishing.
Still going.
That's skill, and you've stayed relevant. You've stayed in a place where you can, do the things you want to do. There's a lot of respect for me for that.
I think I've just really stuck to who I am. I haven't changed. Like, people will meet us and they're like, God, you're so humble. And they'll get shocked that I'm like,
I'm the same.
Yeah, they'll be like, oh my God, you're actually really humble. You're actually all right. But it's because we're all judged, and people have got a misunderstanding of people in TV. They think we're all stuck up. They think we're all divas. They think that we're all multimillionaires and we don't care about anything else apart from vanity. By God, they are wrong. I still love going to the local pub down my hometown. I still shop in Lidl, Aldi, love it, Home Bargains, like you name it. I am just me. And like I said at the beginning, you've got Sophie Geordie Shaw and Sophie Kasaei.
Love it. But before we started talking, you love doing this. You love interviewing people.
Love it.
And I think we're both aligned on a natural curiosity, which will never change, right? So when you're having conversations, and I'd love you to be sort of open about this conversation, I love authenticity, lived experience. What is it that you're doing and the conversation you're having that you sort of thrive off, if you like?
I think I love learning. What I like to know is how other people think of me. So like, after this conversation today, I'll be intrigued to be like, what was your prejudging of me and what is it now? Because a lot of people have that. And this is why I like to do things like this, because I really want to show me as who I am. So look, I still love doing TV, right? And I will carry on do it because it's my passion and I don't know any different. And I will do social media because I love that and things like this, because I just want to keep going and going to show who I really am. Because look, for 10, 15 years, I was masked behind a TV show that was very successful, but I wasn't able to show myself.
Yeah.
So for now...
Release the chains almost.
Yeah.
I can feel that from you. You're flowing. And I hope you've enjoyed this conversation, because we 100% parallel. I want to learn. I wanted to learn from you. Did I have a preconception from today? I just listened and watched you and went back to early stuff and then more recent. And I just saw a lovely...
Can you see the change?
Yeah. But I can also see 100% what you said, which is that there were things you were doing that probably weren't authentic and weren't you.
Yeah.
But I can see that in recent stuff. And it's been a pleasure to talk with you today, because you're just being you. And I really appreciate it, because that's all I want. There's no big book launch or anything, you know what I mean? It's like the conversation that other people can learn from.
And I honestly just want like people to, take away things that I've said, like it's not easy in the public eye, and you know, people do want to get there, and I get that. That's fine. That's up to them. But you've got to have thick skin and a good family around you and good friends, because you will need them, because it can get hard.
And I think with so many kids, Gen Z, wanting to be in that limelight, it's such a powerful message. So much of what you said, Belle.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sophie.
You're very
I loved
welcome.
it.
Lovely to meet you.
Thank you.